All right, so today we're diving into Ships That Pass in the Night.
By Beatrice Harraden.
Right, Beatrice Harraden, a 19th century bestseller.
Huge, actually.
Yeah, over 1 million copies sold.
Really took off.
And the critics loved it, but then, poof, gone, vanished.
Like a ship in the night, huh?
Good one. But seriously, what happened? That's what we're trying to figure out. We've got some excerpts from the book itself.
And a literary blog post analyzing it.
Right, a few different perspectives to help us unpack this whole thing. So what do we know? It's a love story.
A love story. Set in a tuberculosis sanatorium in the Swiss Alps.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's intense. So, like, doomed romance vibes.
Yeah, you could say that. But it also tapped into some big anxieties of the time. Illness, death, finding meaning in a changing world. Things people were really grappling with.
I can see that. So darkness and light all mixed up.
Exactly.
Okay, so tell me about Beatrice Harraden. Who was she?
Well, she was a writer, like seriously prolific. Wrote 17 novels.
Wow, 17?
Yeah, she was busy. A lot of her work dealt with female friendship, music, illness.
Interesting. I wonder if she was drawing from her own life there.
It's possible, but here's another layer. She was a feminist. A big-time suffragette.
No way. A feminist and a successful author in the 19th century. That's, like, next level impressive.
Yeah, she was definitely ahead of her time.
Makes you wonder if that strong personality helped the book take off. Or maybe even contributed to it fading away later.
Could be. We'll have to see.
All right, so let's get into the book itself. You mentioned a tuberculosis sanatorium in the Swiss Alps. That already sounds pretty atmospheric.
Oh, it is. Picture this. You've got the Swiss Alps, right? All that breathtaking beauty.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
But people were there to recover from tuberculosis. They were facing their mortality.
So beautiful, but, like, heavy at the same time.
Definitely. And that's the setting for our love story, the main characters. You got Bernardine home.
Bernadine?
Yeah, she's a young teacher, writer, an activist.
So pretty driven.
Very much so. And then there's Robert Allison. He's known as the disagreeable man.
Disagreeable man, okay? I'm intrigued already. A young activist and a disagreeable man. Sounds like there's going to be some clashing.
Oh, absolutely. They get off to a rocky start, that's for sure. Full of witty banter and tension.
So no love at first sight.
Not exactly. It's more of a slow burn, like two ships cautiously circling each other.
Ships that pass in the night.
Right.
Like the Longfellow poem.
Exactly. The title really sets the stage for the whole book. It's all about those fleeting encounters, you know, how they can change us, even if they're brief.
It makes me think about those moments where you connect with someone and there's a spark, but then it's gone.
Like a missed connection.
Totally. And you're left wondering, what if?
Exactly. And the novel explores that on multiple levels, not just romantic relationships, but friendships, chance meetings. It asks us to consider those moments, how they fit into our lives.
Okay, so intriguing setting, complex characters, and this theme of fleeting encounters. What else? What about this caretaker phenomenon I saw in the notes?
Ah, yeah, that's interesting. The book kind of satirizes this thing, this tendency to neglect your own family while taking care of everyone else.
Like putting on a show of being caring.
Yeah, a bit like that. There's this character, Mrs. Reffold. She's all about the social scene at the sanatorium, more concerned with enjoying the Swiss air than her sick husband.
Huh. Makes you think, right? About people's motivations for caring for others. Was Harraden making a statement about society, maybe particularly women's roles?
It's a good question. It's like she's holding up a mirror and asking, what does real compassion look like? And how do societal expectations play into it all?
Right, because some things never change. Do we still see this today, this performative kindness? I'm thinking social media, you know. Everyone's so focused on appearing charitable, helpful.
It's definitely a timeless theme. The novel makes you think about what's beneath the surface, what's driving people's actions.
Okay, so lots to unpack there. But what about Bernardine? She's an activist, a writer. How does her illness affect all that?
Well, she goes through a major transformation. At first, she's all about achieving big things, making a mark on the world.
Ambitious.
Totally. But as her illness progresses, she starts to reevaluate. She learns to appreciate the nothingnesses, as she calls them. Those small moments that we often overlook.
I feel that. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle and forget to just be present.
Right. And Bernardine's journey is all about finding joy in the everyday, the simple things. It's a reminder to slow down, appreciate what we have.
It's like she's finding a new kind of mindfulness.
You could say that. And it's crucial to understanding what the book is saying about meaning and purpose, even when life throws you curveballs.
Okay, so Bernadine's journey is all about shifting perspectives. But what about Robert, the disagreeable man? What's his deal?
He's a complicated guy, that's for sure. At first, he seems cynical, withdrawn, even rude sometimes.
Living up to the name.
He is. But there are glimpses of something else underneath. A softer side.
Really? Like what?
Well, sometimes he's surprisingly tender, especially with the country people and eventually with Bernadine. But the real key to understanding him is this unsent letter he wrote to Bernadine.
Wait, an unsent letter? That's like a secret confession. Why didn't he send it? What does it tell us about him?
Well, that's a story for the next part of our deep dive.
Oh, come on. You can't leave me hanging like that.
But trust me, this letter is a game changer. It shows a side of Robert that completely contradicts that grumpy exterior. It's a reminder that we only see a fraction of what's really going on inside someone.
Okay, fine. You win. I can't wait to hear more about this letter. It sounds like it's going to be intense.
It is. It really makes you think about what people hide and why, and what happens when we keep our true feelings bottled up.
I'm ready for it. All right, so that unsent letter, Robert's secret message to Bernadine. What's the deal with it?
Well, it's pretty amazing, especially because, Robert is so closed off in person. In the letter, he's totally different.
So what does he say? What's he revealing?
He starts by saying he couldn't believe Bernadine was actually leaving. Like, against my wish and against my knowledge, you have crept into my life as a necessity, and now I have to give you up.
Wow. That's pretty intense. He's saying she became, essential to him, but he pushed her away.
He explains that in the letter. He says he teased her, tried to annoy her.
But why?
He says it was all a cover-up for his real feelings.
Like he didn't want to admit he cared.
Exactly. He even says he had a lonely life, really lonely. I had never loved anyone, never drawn near to anyone. But then with Bernadine, everything changed. His words. Little by little, I yielded myself this luxury, and my heart, once so dried up, began to flower again.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful and sad at the same time. So he's got all these feelings, but he hides them.
Yeah, and you see this contrast in the letter. He's all cynical on the outside, but inside, he's got all this emotion.
What else does he say?
He talks about remembering things Bernadine said, like how God makes us lonely, so we'll turn to him. Robert writes, "For we are all lonely, though some of us not quite so much as others."
He's finding comfort in her words. But he also says his loneliness is worse than hers. Seriously.
It's Robert being Robert, you know? Complicated. He's dealing with his own mortality, his own isolation, but he also sees how strong Bernadine is. He writes about her being independent, but needing someone to lean on.
So he admires her, but he wants to protect her too.
Yeah, it's kind of a push and pull. And the thing is, his love for her is so strong that he actually encourages her to find someone else. Someone to take care of her. A strong man, he says.
That's, it's noble, I guess, but also kind of frustrating. Why not just tell her how he feels?
Well, he tries to explain that in the letter. He writes, "But because I love you, my own little darling, I will not spoil your life. I won't ask you to give me even one thought."
Classic sacrifice for love. But is it really the right thing to do, to not even give her a choice?
It makes you think, right? About love, about sacrifice. Is he being selfless or just protecting himself?
I don't know. And then, get this, he ends the letter talking about a dream he has, where he loses Bernadine and can't find her.
Yeah, it's like he's already grieving her, even though she's still alive at that point.
So heavy, all this emotion, and then he doesn't send it.
It's the ultimate act of holding back. Did he really think it was the right thing to do? Or was he too scared?
This letter. It's like we're seeing a whole new Robert. Vulnerable, loving, but so messed up. It makes that whole disagreeable act seem like a defense mechanism.
Like he built up walls to avoid getting hurt. And it makes you think about the importance of communication. What happens when we don't say what we really feel?
What's the cost of all those unspoken words?
Right. What could have been different if Robert had just been honest?
Okay, so Robert's letter is a major turning point.
Yeah.
But what about the other relationships in the book, like Katharina, the woman who lost her fiancé? How does her story fit in?
It's a reminder that loss and grief are powerful things. Katharina is stuck in the past. It shows how hard it is to move on after a big loss.
And then there's that whole caretaker thing. The people who neglect their own families while they focus on taking care of others.
Yeah, the book criticizes that kind of performative caregiving.
Yeah.
Like, the motivation isn't real compassion, it's something else.
It's about looking good, not doing good. Is Harraden making a bigger point there?
I think so. It ties into the whole idea of connection, how complicated relationships can be. what's real and what's not.
It's like those social media posts where everyone's trying to show how charitable they are. It makes you wonder, are they really helping? Or just trying to get likes?
Right, it's a timeless question. Are we being genuine or just putting on a show?
And don't forget that scene where Bernadine defends educated women. She really goes after Robert on that one.
That's such an important part of the book. It shows how women were fighting for equality back then, how much they had to overcome.
It's inspiring, actually, to see Bernadine standing up for what she believes in, even when people push back.
And, her whole journey is about that. Being strong, challenging expectations. Even when she's sick, she keeps going.
Okay, so we've got these characters, these relationships, these big ideas. But what about that ending? Bernadine's death. It just felt so sudden, so unfair. Why did Harraden do that?
Well, that's a question for the final part of our deep dive. We've got to unpack that ending, figure out what it all means.
All right, I'm ready. Let's do it. That ending. Still thinking about it. Bernadine dying like that. It just felt so, I don't know, out of the blue after everything she went through.
It's definitely an ending that makes you think. And yeah, a lot of people feel that way. Like, it's not fair.
Especially because, remember, Bernadine talks about second chances. Like, God gives us second chances. It's almost like kind of cruel, right?
It does make you question things, doesn't it? Fate, fairness, all of that. Maybe Harraden wanted us to think about those big questions. What do we believe? How do we find meaning when life doesn't go the way we expect?
So it's more than just a sad ending.
Right. Don't forget, the title is Ships That Pass in the Night. Those encounters, even the brief ones, they matter. They change us. Bernardine's life might have been short, but it was full of connections, growth, moments of happiness.
Thinking about her relationship with Robert, it wasn't easy, but they pushed each other, made each other better. Even though they never really said how they felt, you could feel that connection.
And all those other people she met. At the sanatorium, in the village, each conversation, each moment shaped who she was.
It's like she understood that life is made up of these small moments, and even the hard ones. They're part of it all.
And maybe that's the takeaway, right? Finding meaning not just in the big picture, but in all those little things that happen along the way.
But why did the book disappear? It was so popular once.
Well, times change, tastes change. What people loved back then, maybe it doesn't resonate the same way now. And the ending, yeah, it's tough. Not everyone wants a story that leaves you feeling unsettled.
Because it does, right?
Yeah.
Make you think about how fragile life is, how unpredictable.
But maybe that's why it's important to read now. We live in a world that feels, I don't know, kind of crazy. The book reminds us to appreciate what we have, the people in our lives, to find those moments of joy even when things are hard.
It's about the journey, right? Not just the destination.
Ships that pass in the night. Maybe it's about recognizing those ships, those encounters, and letting them change us, even the ones that sail away.
So to wrap things up, I guess what we're saying is pay attention to those moments, those connections. They're what make life meaningful.
Embrace the journey, even when it's unexpected. You never know what you might discover along the way.